So next to you, just high five the person next to you, just go for it, that's a nice high five. Smile for a moment and then quickly look around everyone else on your table and see that they're also smiling as well. Just get you to go and do that. Where I'm from in Double Bay, we can't smile because of all the work that's been done, but the basic idea, let's get into today. So, a lot of conversation about momentum, and momentum makers is a fantastic subject to start to think a bit about. And we want you to think about strategy and execution, but how you actually, and it's a really good way to go to develop what we go to call the resilience skill. That if you were going to go surfing, you would read about the conditions of the day. Many of you will look at the weather app, and every morning that will then determine what you'll wear, how you'll dress, whether or not you'll take a jacket because of what the conditions of the day are. But yet when it comes to a state agency, I'm amazed about the person that you are becoming rather than actually getting to a position that you feel that you've arrived. You're a constant work in progress. And when you think a little bit about that, it's an interesting foundational idea because what it gets you to consider is that ultimately we need to make sure that we're playing at our absolute best. And so when you think about playing at your best, what will you actually be known for? Will you be known for one of the greatest ever estate agents? Will you be known as the person who drove significant market share? Will you be known as the person who really helped other people to grow? Conversation, the whole idea of the eulogy values. Will you be known as being a really great person? Or the resume values about what you wrote in terms of income? And the eulogy values are the ones that really matter the most. Were you kind? Were you caring? Were you considerate? Were you in a conversation around what we go to call the recovery zone? Going for a walk outside, getting a little bit of sunshine at the moment, being in a position you go and have a sauna, maybe you do something where you get just to chill out, you read a book, you take some time out from the game, you ultimately know what it is that you do. But ultimately what I find is that people are high on energy, but they're actually negative. And you get these people and they're what we go to call the survival zone. They're rocking backwards and forwards. They're not actually in a position that they're actually thinking about solutions. What they're actually doing is that they're moaning and groaning about it. And appropriately so. And the interesting conversation is it's not that you won't be in every single one of these zones. It's what are you going to specifically do to A, recognize that you're in that zone, and then B, to think about specific people that are in this position, that they're in their recovery zone. They actually have very specific routines to know what they need to do, so then they can oscillate between their performance zone and their recovery zone by being very deliberate around what it is that they do. Now, believe it or not, during the course of my presentation with you this morning, I've already dropped into the recovery zone at least once. When I asked you to turn to the people and actually have a conversation with them and do the high five, I was all of a sudden going back into recovery zone. For a minute or so there, I did some deep breathing. I quickly looked as fast as you can to try to touch the sun. And it doesn't matter how far you go, this distance between where you and the rest of my life, when I first got to see Tony Schwartz, who wrote the book called The Power of Full Engagement. And what I've done is I've really focused on what are the specific things that Josh does to get into the performance zone, what does he then do to drop into the recovery zone, and if there's a moment that he finds himself in either the survival zone or the burnt out zone, and it does happen, what are the very specific behaviours that he puts in place in order to be able to go and achieve the level of momentum that he really wants inside of his life. Now this is an important foundational idea because of my life where I regret that I didn't do the things that I wanted to do. Wayne Gretzky had a phenomenal quote, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And I just thought about that I always wanted to take the shot. If you have a voice in your head, hands up if you've got a voice in your head, okay, great. And now let's go a slightly different one. Hands up if you've got a couple of voices in your head. Yeah, okay, great. And it's issues. When COVID happened, my Ferrari engine for a brain with bicycle brakes went into overdrive. Real estate agents, they won't need coaching. If they don't need coaching, I don't have a business. If I don't have a business, I'm going to go broke. If I go broke, then can I please have a Coca-Cola? And all of a sudden, the waiter turns to you and says, oh, we've got Pepsi. Is that all right? And in that moment, you kind of feel a bit deflated, a bit dejected. You lower the basic idea that you ring, and literally in 5 seconds later, someone answers the phone. The idea that there is a same-day response, that maintenance actually happens on the property, that we get a quote on that and we get a contractor out to the property, particularly quickly, around particularly urgent, fundamentally see significant value in. And what I want you to think about is that if you're not planning on being the cheapest, and I love this quote by Herb Keller, where he says, we've got a strategy, it's called doing things. Develop some strengths today on leadership. I need to develop some strengths today on recruitment. I need to build a bit of a formula for what it is that we actually got to do. Great people. So one of the things that we've done is that we have to work in some of the fastest markets in the world. And they're a great teacher. And over in Dubai and working with House & House, We built this formula that we baked in November last year. And we now grow people through basically 7 or so key things. So I'm going to give you the headings. Let's go and have a look at them. The first foundational idea is that people need to become really good at what we go to call area knowledge. Now, this used to be hard. Not actually at 10 times the length out of it because it's really well built and they've got great wheels and they're really good at maintenance. And the interesting conversation is, if I want to, and thank you so much for the opportunity to potentially sell your property for you. I just wanted to let you know we've actually sold properties anywhere between 100,000 all the way up to 10 million pounds. We've been trusted at the highest echelons, but we're not too good to sell properties at all levels. Now, the interesting foundational conversation is that we do 500 sales per annum. We're in a position that we've got over 500 properties under management and 500 led only. And literally we have 500 financial services client. They're all unique. That's 2,000 people. If you think on both sides that literally we've got a buyer and a seller or a tenant and a landlord, that probably means that we've served over about 3.5. And what it leaves us is what we effectively go to call the 3 layers of skills. Now, skills are really important. To frozen oranges to the under-8 football team, then hand out more frozen oranges to the under-8 football team because that's how you generate your leads. If, however, you generate your leads because you drop your kids off at school, then maybe start dropping your kids off at different schools to generate some more leads. But the basic foundational idea is find out what works and scale it. Don't go and do a whole question. It's like this whole conversation of going to a buffet. It's an invitation, it's not a requirement. So choose what you want to be really good at. You might look at that and say, Josh, all I want to do is that I want our sales team to be really good at buyer work. I want to build a great item of value with Ben. I want to make sure that then we're really good at what we do with past clients and vals, and I'll leave the rest to someone else. Well, no problems. But if you're now in a position that you want to actually go to grow your lettings business, okay, great. Well, personal network, who are the people that we know that own investment properties? And the interesting conversation is successful. How you win matters. You will face difficult challenges. Things that you did not expect will turn up. But the distance between the event and what you go to do next is your choice to choose. Are waiting for permission to become one of the greats, rather than just setting out to become one of the greats, not by ego, but by making the decision to have a truly strategic approach of how they really build momentum on the inside of this. And if you think about what Johnny Ive does, he's in a position now where he's left Apple, and you might have seen recently that ChatGPT have paid just close to $10 billion US, and they're going to be launching a set of devices next year. And it could be the potential end of Apple in its current era because they've stolen the design. And customer experience, Adam Grant, he says, what you've got to do is that you've got to get better at getting better. And I love this question, what are you actually doing to get better? And build the momentum and wanting to create organizations of the future. And I love this with you that changes the way you think about something, which changes how your life actually turns out. And that's a really important foundational idea to get right. Who luck really matters. As we close out today's presentation, I want to leave you on the famous words from Nike. Find your greatness.